Gruesome Magazine.
Hello, once again, I'm your host, Doc Rodden, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review the very latest in theatrical horror movies. Each week, my co-hosts, Brian W. Smith and Christopher G. Moore, and I will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. Tonight, we're reviewing The Infinity Pool.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes, joining me this week is award-winning filmmaker Brian W. Smith. How you doing, sir? And then it's an award-winning screenwriter, I should say. Sorry. Mixing up my award-winning.
He makes films, too.
A couple of cheesy little films. Oh, thank you. How you doing? Thanks for having me for this this film I can't unsee.
You can't unsee it. Oh my gosh, that might be what we put in the byline. All right. Also joining us is the award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore.
What are you doing, Doc? What are you doing, you little baby?
Oh,
I can watch Mia Goth say that over and over and over.
I don't know. All right. Well, we are here to review The Infinity Pool from Brandon Cronenberg, a name you should be familiar with, at least the last name. We are going to start off giving you our first impressions. Those first impressions will be spoiler-free. Then we'll get into a discussion about the film. We will get into spoilers, and there are spoilers to be had. And then we'll wrap things up with our score 1 to 5. And our favorite scene. And it's not going to be pretty. The favorite scene. So we hope you enjoy not only this review, but many others that we have on the site. We hope you hit the like, subscribe, share with a friend. Those buttons are free and easy. And they help us find more horror film lovers just like you. So please.
Do it.
Do it. All right. Let's get into the cards so we can get things going. Badoom! The Infinity Pool 2023 from Neon. Available in theaters beginning January 27, 2023. Yes, in theaters. Synopsis: James and M. Foster are enjoying an all-inclusive beach vacation in the fictional island of Tolqa when a fatal accident exposes the resort's perverse subculture and of hedonistic tourism, reckless violence, and surreal horrors. Written and directed by Brandon Cronenberg, the cast includes Alexander Skarsgard, Mia Goth, Cleopatra, Coleman, and Thomas Kretschmann. I was happy to see him in this. Always happy to see him in a film. All right, let's get into our reviews. Brian W. Smith, you're up first. What was your first impression of The Infinity Pool?
First impression, it was kind of what I expected and not at all what I was anticipating. So it kept me engaged, I'd say, for at least 2/3, and then it kind of loses me towards the end. Not loses me, but it was like I was sort of noticing the time. It's a mind bender. It wants to keep you asking questions and wondering what's real, what's not, and again, I went in. If you go in not knowing anything about it, it's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting premise, and Mia Goth is on this wave of cult horror characters and performances. So I was happy to see her in the film, and I think the direction and cinematography and sound design, everything, it's interesting. It's a pseudo sci-fi. It doesn't get too into the sci-fi, but that's as much as I'll say before we get into spoilers.
Okay, Christopher G. Moore, your first impression of The Infinity Pool?
This feels like an R-rated version of Twilight Zone episode almost. And I think it has some. I think the one thing I could say about Brandon Cronenberg, he does have interesting ideas, but then he always goes in these weird, perverse ways with it. That sometimes I think I mentioned on my Facebook the most entertaining thing about watching this film was the old guy next to me. who's all jamming to the Alamo Drafthouse music and stuff before the movie started, but then he was like, "Oh, I have to see a guy's penis. I have to see the sex. I have to see weird, sexual, weird stuff going on," and that was entertaining to me. I did enjoy elements of it. I think Mia Goth, I love her performance in this. Alexander Skarsgard was okay. Again, I has an interesting idea about it. but I'm not sure if it really executes it well. I hated the ending to it. I hate the way it kind of ends. And I hate it, the way it kind of plays out. Although it has some moments where I was like, oh gosh, it kind of threw me for a loop. But yeah, I think his movie Possessor is a whole lot much better than this. But yeah, I think there's some things that didn't work for me. But I do give it props for the idea behind it.
Props for the idea. All right, I'll be blunt. I hated this movie. I despise this movie. I never want to see this movie again. I am not even sure I want to see another Brandon Cronenberg film again. I did not like this movie, if I didn't make that clear. I thought just about everything about this movie was bad. There are a few things I most of the time I like a movie and I can okay, there's a couple things I can talk about that I didn't like. It's the opposite. There's so much I dislike, and then there's a few tiny little things I did like about this. Mia Goth being one of them. But this movie, I wanted to be like everybody else in the theater. I'm not kidding here. There wasn't a whole lot of people in the theater, but everyone else in the theater left. By the time it got to the end of this movie, I was the only one left in the theater. They all got up and left. This movie, I hate this movie. I despise this movie. This is at the top of my worst of the year. And we'll go there.
Wow.
I don't.
That's intriguing.
Should we call it White Lotus meets Society?
I called it garbage. I called it garbage.
I was thinking, yeah, although I was kind of biased towards the Society reference because they kind of showed it before the Alamo Drafthouse screening when they show stuff that kind of connects with it. Although I was thinking that there's a little bit of White Lotus, a little bit of Society vibe. I mean, I think it's shot well. Although I've heard
not
that
all the time. Not all the time. No, it's not shot well all the time. There are some.
Well, not all the time. There's some really shot really well.
There are bad construction. There's bad focus. There's oh my god. I think it's all on
that
purpose,
stuff.
But,
that stuff is done on purpose. I think there's brilliant shots. There's some shots that are really. There's one cool shot where the way they use the focal length and the camera lens, it makes the shadow of the guy behind him look almost alien-like, and I thought that was one of the coolest things I've seen in a long time. So I think, but I think also, I think with Brandon, and I think he did this a little bit in Possessor too, where he goes between like these crazy tilting camera angles, and really there's like a shot where they're having dinner and everything is totally blue outside and they're like lit differently. There's stuff like that's kind of cool, but then when it goes into like more of the psychedelic trippy type stuff, then that's when it goes the more sort of like indie crazy angles and a lot of flashing, epileptic flashing.
Oh, did not like that. The rotating camera, I was like, oh man, that's cool. By the end of the movie, it's like, that's trite. You're doing it too much in one movie. I was like, you suck. I did not like okay, so Mia Goth.
Tell us how you really feel.
Mia Goth was good, but I've liked Alexander Skarsgård in just about everything he's done. I did not like him here. I think he's miscast. I think he doesn't get the character. I don't think he's very good in this.
Well, and
Brian, please step in.
Well, I mean, I was thinking about this as well. I mean, would it have been an interesting movie if the roles were reversed between he and his wife, and it was more M falling in with the group, or there's a lot of different things that I was thinking about afterwards and watching some interviews with them, because M is sort of giving I'm sorry, her name Cleopatra, her real name
Coleman,
Coleman, it was really good. I just feel like she's not given a lot to do, and then they're just
be wasted,
possibly wasted. But the big like catalyst moment in the film, I was like, are we just remaking I Know What You Did Last Summer? Like, where's this headed? It was just, there were like little moments in the film where I was like, is he just sort of not ripping off, but like borrowing certain things? And I started wondering, because I didn't know the actual premise about. Are we in spoilers?
We're in spoilers. Yes.
Like the whole doubling thing, I didn't know about that going in, so I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And I was like, did he see us and decided to delve in a little more into he didn't really give us the science, but he gave us at least more of a visual of how it happens. And then he just sort of like, you're supposed to fill in the rest
I
of the blank
want
and
I wanted to like that, but
suspend
in the end, I
disbelief and
didn't
all
like.
Well,
that.
but I did like the idea of like what would happen if you knew that nothing you did, your repercussions of anything didn't really matter. Your double would always take the fall for it. And I think I did like that moment where we thought, okay, they're finally being done in, and they're not, And so, but then it's like
that took me so out of it.
Oh, I love that element because I was like, oh man,
that took me entirely out of the scene when they chuckle took me entirely out of the movie.
That I love that, but my well, but then oh, that's okay, and that's understandable. I can understand that. My issue came to be like I kept thinking, well, where are they getting the doubles of him? Did they explain that?
They're making it in the goop, and we're just supposed to fill in the blanks on how it happened.
Well, but like when they grab that one person and they beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Where did they get that one? Right.
And then the dog one, which I thought that's the only time you could kill a dog and it's okay because it's a person.
The question I had afterwards was because he didn't kill the one that he beat up.
He kept getting jars every time it happened, so
there's three of them. Okay, because I was trying to figure out there was the question of like early on, like, is this really you or is this your double or are you your double? Because at the end when he takes out himself, there's like shots of the hand, and I'm like, I don't know if it was just in my head or if I just saw it in the quick shots. Was he wearing a wedding ring? Because would that mean was that the real James being killed by his double? It was like confusing.
Well, and I think that's one thing Brandon Cronenberg, I saw some interviews with him. Actually, he was being interviewed by Fangoria, Angel with Fangoria, and she was trying to get him like, so was he the real or was he the double? And I think it almost has that Rick and Morty type thing, where it's like, is the real version of the character or not? And I think that's, but then I kept thinking, well, maybe they did mention that they have to make a pristine copy of him. So what happens if they had a non-pristine copy? And maybe that's what the dog was. But then I kept thinking, but they said
he was perfect the first time, so they blew that out of the water.
So that one time, but what happens if they make it and it comes out wrong and they have to redo it? What do they do with the and maybe that's where but then they didn't explain that. So how are these rich mofos finding these extra copies? So that's what took me out of it, because I was like, wait a minute, where are they getting this?
I thought that one reveals a little much.
Yeah, like, and then when he's in that little shed or whatever, and the boy shows up, was that real? Was that a dream? There's stuff like that. I'm kind of
like, is his consciousness? Yeah, is he still linked to his dead self, even though it's like, are they linked? There's a lot of that.
Well, they didn't. I got the impression when they turned around, you see them watching. I got the impression he wasn't attached to it all. But I will give him credit that scene when the boy comes in there was incredibly uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Which was what it was meant to be. And I thought that was I thought it was the most effective scene. Mm-hmm. But then anyway, I won't go into that again. But there are moments when I was really interested, but then like the whole rainy season thing at the end took me.
I hated the ending.
Pissed in my Wheaties. Oh my God, I was so upset.
I mean, I can sort of understand it, because it feels like the other people just snap back into their real life again, and he just can't get over it. But I just didn't.
Do we think they were clones or they were the real people, and they're just?
At first I was trying to figure that out, and then at some point I stopped.
You didn't care?
I didn't give a shit. It was like it didn't play on that enough. And right. I just gave up.
Did you enjoy the breastfeeding scene?
No. I thought that was. I mean, it was weird, but
the breastfeeding scene,
the bloody breastfeeding,
where there was something came out of the. I don't know. It was like
for some reason.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, well, that was in the psychedelic thing. Like, it's like either you see it or it's very HR.
Yeah, because they kept bringing that
very species HR Giger. She had the barb thing in her tentacles, but the ending that it didn't make any sense. I don't know why they went there, but Mia Goth is gonna. She just
She
did it.
She has no
was
qualms
game.
being naked for no reason.
She's game, and did it, But it's just like, is he just there's certain shock value, and then the more I thought about it, I was like, this is just us, but with a little bit more of the science thrown in and more sex and gore. I don't know.
I'd rather watch Us.
Rather watch what?
Us.
Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
I mean, I with Cronenberg, I kind of figured it was going to be. I'd seen Possessor, and I know I feel he is like sort of not cashing him, but just sort of the apple doesn't fall far from the tree type of thing. But there's also a little Gaspar Noé in there, a little David Lynch, and he's pulling from all the different sort of shocking. You could sort of see his influences.
But what's original? What in there was originally him? Tell me.
I mean, he seems to like the visual of the creepy masks type, the creepy faces as like a visual.
That was cool.
Like when you see his trailer for a Brandon Cronenberg movie, there's always going to be like interesting, creepy visuals. I don't know if he's pulling it from something else, but I got that vibe. It was like, oh, where are those? How do those faces, factor in? But those are just masks. But yeah, there was like coins in the mouths and things. It was very, very strange, very original. So I'd say those are original. I'd never seen anything like that.
I like the fact that they were selling them. Like they were all like,
yeah,
you go down to the thing and you can buy these.
Well, that
the cultural appropriation.
The cultural appropriation made me laugh too, because it's like, oh wow, that's so inappropriate. But
Bollywood dancing and yeah.
And they had the little things on their eyes where they.
I mean, whatever you say about his filmmaking stuff, at least I feel like this is an idea I haven't really seen before. So at least he has these germ of an idea that he does. But then, yeah, he always sort of he bakes this cake and he always adds, I got to add this kind of perversity here and that. Yeah. And it does feel like he's trying to be like what's the guy that did Love? It feels like he's trying Gaspar Noé. He feel like he's like, I need to throw in like some extra sex stuff, like because like with Possessor, there was a scene they had to cut out because they had like an erection, and this one, the hand job scene, evidently they actually had a prop penis that actually did ejaculate. So which they cut out. It was in the Sundance version, and there was another stuff as well. I guess maybe it was more in the orgy type stuff, but I feel like he is trying to walk that line, that his dad did, but because I think you could also say the same thing about some of his dad's stuff too. It could be very almost like he's recycling a lot of the same stuff, like Existence and stuff like that, which were basically, just him remaking things like Videodrome. But
there's definitely a lot of body horror in this.
Yeah. No, I mean, you wouldn't expect anything less. I mean, I think he definitely goes. I think he definitely tries to do a lot more stuff with the camera, which you can't overdo it sometimes. But I don't know. I think it had some cool stuff. But yeah, I think there's other stuff that didn't work as well. So
thank God this movie had Mia Goth, or I would have been like everybody else in the audience.
Well, my
issue... I don't know if I could have stood it even for doing this review. I would have just recused myself.
Before seeing it, like I saw the trailers and stuff, and then I'd seen like clips here and there of her going kind of crazy and unhinged. But I feel like by the time it happens in the movie, I think that was where it kind of took me out, because I was just sort of like, are they capitalizing on this is Mia Goth we have in our movie, let's have her go unhinged, or is this part of the character? Because it didn't feel like the character we'd gotten to know. She played it so cool, pretty much before then. And then becomes this other unhinged, like,
at least it's gradual.
Please.
It is gradual.
Well, I kind of wish they hadn't. I feel like they show a lot of the stuff towards the end in the trailer.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish that they'd saved it a little bit, because then I'd already seen that scene where she's, what are you doing, James?
Right, like taunting him in Villainous or something. Yeah. They're like, oh, we got Pearl in our movie. We got to go with it. We got to, promote it.
Or she's on that car hood.
Well, that was a funny, that was like a funny TikTok that Neon had put out on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Faster!
Faster.
We're jumping ahead, but that might be my favorite. Oh, my wine! The way her voice.
Oh, yes.
Everybody's shocked that's her real voice, because they're so used to doing American voices.
I'm shocked every time I hear it on an interview. I've been listening to them. I'm watching interviews and stuff and just getting accustomed to it. But yeah, it's a lot to.
She's like a creepy Victorian child.
That's what someone said. Yeah, it's like a sickly ghost. Who likes to eat blueberry pancakes and
Blueberry pancakes. You're
And
a
it-
double, James.
and occasionally we'll chop you up with an axe. Like what if The Shining? What if it was just like it's like her character is her career is Shelley Duvall and Jack Nicholson, but just reversed in The Shining.
If she's like, there's twins of herself, and he's like, come play with us.
She could play, yeah, she could do that.
Oh my gosh, you guys. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's give our score 1 to 5. I'm almost embarrassed to do mine. And our favorite scene, Brian W. Smith, or you are up first.
I didn't hate it. I thought it held my interest, and the visuals and the sci-fi and all that yada yada. I'll be generous and give it I'll give it a 3 out of 5.
No, it's
Did- Because I know it's probably gonna be lower in your end, but no, I like the production value. I thought the premise was interesting. It had some again, it was ideas. It wasn't necessarily fleshed out, maybe fully, but it was there. There was something there. I had to suspend my disbelief. It was better than Skinamarink. Sorry. Yeah, and my favorite scene, I guess, was like I said, the scene with her in the car and just yelling at him, because by that point it's just kind of like I don't know where this movie's going. It's already sort of run its course, but she was entertaining, playing drunk and spilling her wine and everything, and that was just
pointing
funny.
a gun, screaming at him.
But,
I
yeah,
never read your book.
that whole scene was
That was hilarious.
it was so not Pearl. That was like it's so interesting when you really watch her characters, and I'll even watch Emma if I can find it. If I can look it up, I'll look at that. I didn't know she was in that.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at everything she's in. So yeah, that's my generous little score.
There you go. Christopher G. Moore, your score 1 to 5, your favorite scene?
I'll give this 3.25.
Wow.
I did like elements of this, but I will agree a little bit with Doc that I feel like he's definitely delivering a lot of the same shtick. Because there's elements that felt very similar to Possessor when it comes to the visuals and stuff, because he likes doing that thing with all kinds of cool flashing colors and seeing weird faces and all kinds of stuff. He kind of does it, but at the same time, there's shots in this is like, I want to like that whole shadow character in the background with the use of the camera lens. I was like, I want to steal that for a movie. So I was impressed by parts of it, but other parts maybe kind of like, I don't like the ending and stuff. As for favorite scene, you may know where I'm going with this, but I think when they're calling to him in the bus, just
oh no, when they're driving by. Oh gosh.
Well, when it's like, no, when they try to get him to come out, like, what are you doing, James? What are you doing, you little baby? It just made me laugh. I think anytime I'm feeling down, I just go find that clip on TikTok or whatever. I think I may even do a TikTok with that voice, just because I love that. Oh, Mia Goth, I love her so much. Put her in more stuff.
Yes,
I think if she wasn't in this, I think it would be a different picture. But yeah, that's my favorite scene.
There you go. Okay, I'm giving this a 1. I feel like it might deserve a 1.5, but I'm going to give it a 1 because I really didn't like this movie. And I wanted to like the movie. I was excited to see it, but oh gosh, it was an excruciating hour and 57 minutes. Thankfully, I was entertained by the all the trailers. I started disliking this movie early on. The movie, I just wasn't liking the characters and everything. Anyway, I don't have anything terribly positive to say, so I'll leave it there. My favorite scene was the car scene, but I'll have to pick another one now. So what am I going to do? And okay, so I'm going to say yes, you're right about the masks. And that was fascinating because they were also horrifying. The imagery, and the fact that they were part of the culture and that they were selling the mask at the thing, and it was like, what? Are you serious? Because we get to see him. The band was wearing them at the beginning, right? And they basically go in there and steal them. But when they're driving down the road, and they're just. But even then, it felt like the strangers. So I don't, oh man, I just hate that scene now. Okay. But anyway, the mask helped the situation, made their insanity a little bit more visceral. But it didn't last long, and then it went to a place that I didn't like. So I'm going to shut up.
You didn't enjoy where the naked big guy in front of the fireplace scene?
Not really. There wasn't much about that I liked. God bless America. I will say that Mia Goth alone, if I just want to do her performance, because her performance was nuanced, I thought, because she was so not. It was when she was more likable, it almost didn't feel right, and then when she was crazy, it felt like that was really her, which was kind of remarkable if you think about it. But it just wasn't enough. Because I wouldn't call her the lead. It's definitely Skarsgard is the lead.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny when he was in prison and he was all of a sudden shy about them taking off his gown. It's like, dude, I was like, didn't he emerge in True Blood naked? Like his whole career's been naked.
Yes.
That one scene, that had to have been like an in joke. It's like, no, please don't take my clothes off. It's like he does it in everything.
And then I was so disappointed by the bloodbath thing. It didn't go where it just like there's where you can go really far and you pull back. That's where you pull your punch. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how far it was going to go with the home invasion scene and stuff. I mean, it went pretty far, but I was like,
singing in the rain. I hate this movie.
Yeah, well,
Christopher, you're mad at me a lot. Now I'm mad at myself. I made myself go see this movie.
Well, you don't really know how a film's going to be until you see it.
Well, that's true.
You can't blame yourself for that, because I think we all sort of thought, well, okay, this looks kind of interesting. Cool.
I think some of us put it on our most anticipated, didn't we? I think I can't remember if it came up or not, but all right. Well, regardless, it was a contender for that. But that's our review. I guess go with the 3 1/4 and hope for the best.
Although when I left the theater, one of the guys who's in front of me is like, "Well, that wasn't the worst film I've ever seen."
Yeah, that's how I feel.
I was so surprised. Like when the lights came up and I looked around, because there was only so many people in the theater. It was a Sunday afternoon, so it wasn't full by any means. There was maybe 3 other groups of people. But I knew where they were because, when you're in a theater that empty, you want to know where everybody is, because if you don't, you feel kind of creeped out.
Right.
And when the lights came up, when it started doing the names on the right-hand side, and I was like, shit, everybody's gone. They all left. They were all gone by the time that happened.
Wow.
They all had left. Oh,
I forget which scene it was, but there was a guy in my theater, because there weren't many people. It was less than 10, probably less than 8 of us. And there was a guy that walked in. He had a white suit on. He was like, I don't know if he was just tired or drunk or whatever, but he was also carrying like a large white teddy bear head, and he just went and sat up. So you better believe I was like looking up like during the movie, like, what the hell is that? Yeah, I see Christopher's face. That's exactly how I looked. I'm like,
that's
why?
Like is your life turned into a Brandon Cronenberg film?
It was exactly that. And I mean, he ended up falling asleep in the theater. I heard him snoring, but yeah, I was a little nervous. I was a little nervous about what was going on.
Teddy bear head.
Yeah, or was he gonna wear it? Was he formally wearing it? Is he like, one of the guys? It was a Times Square area. So yeah, when I looked and he was like, okay, so I'm doing a white suit, and I looked up in the dark. I see this teddy bear head. And I'm like, what? Like, what's going on? And I'm already sitting on the edge by the exit anyway. That's my thing.
It's always like the more crowded is, the more comfortable I feel. But
yeah,
when it's just me and a couple other people, I get like, oh, I'm so.
It
figured
was
out.
after. It was actually when Skarsgard's in prison for the first time, and he's like, yelling, "Hey, let me out!" or he's like,
Mhm.
it was that scene, and that's when he came in. I was like, really, this scene before anything really. So
That's a
I
strange
see
way to
him
come in.
walking during the hand job.
That was so weird the way they filmed it, but I guess it did what it had to
Well,
do. All
I
right.
think because they edited.
And for some reason, I just
No.
wasn't surprised by the end result of that scene. I just wasn't surprised that we actually saw something.
I was just like,
Because
really?
I didn't
It
know
was
much about it,
more
but
of it, yeah.
I was surprised. I wasn't surprised by it just because I feel like that's where certain directors are taking things these days. So
Yeah,
it's like,
for the book.
Trying to see what they can get away with, before
Right,
the
right.
It
MPAA
was like-
says nope.
But what did that tell us? I don't know. It told us something. Okay. Christopher.
It's a whole other conversation. Yeah,
Brian, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun, even though
It's okay, Doc. Your infinity pool is my Skinamarink. So
we got M Night up next week, so that'll be interesting.
Oh damn it! I haven't finished the book. That's
you got a week. You got a week, sir.
to finish that book. All right.
hurry it up.
All right, let's get out. Let's say good night.
Good night.
Gruesome Magazine.